What is up, entrepreneurs? Welcome back to the Friday Live Helpcast with me, your hostess, the mostess, Diana Gladney. I hope that you are having a fantastic day, a great start to your weekend, and I hope you are ready for today. We got two main things that we're going to cover today, in addition to your Q&A, whether you're watching this live or on the replay. Just want to let you know, I appreciate you being here, okay? I really do mean that. And so we're going to be talking about the Panasonic S9 that just dropped this somewhat seemingly, allegedly, a little bit controversial camera. Then we're going to talk about something that I posted on the community tab, asking about, are you struggling when it comes to you being able to show up for yourself, being able to be present, make content, and like your schedule, and just finding the time to create content, and how I've been able to do this for the last several years, and just maintain the consistency that whatever you choose, whether that's once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever floats your boat, or find your lost remote. And so I'm really pumped and excited about today. I hope that you are too. And if you didn't have a good week, it will be starting today. All right, so who got in there? Got in the chat, got K-Walk Comedy in the building. Good to see you, saying taking my lunch break to check out the Helpcast. Appreciate that. You know what, Principal Walker? I saw and came across my pen in my drawer, and it's just the darndest thing. It ran out of ink. It was quite a long time ago, but I'm gonna refill it soon. But to that point, still good to see you. Glad that you are here. So I want to talk about the Panasonic S9 that recently came out. This is the camera, and so it looks very similar to like that rangefinder-esque style, which is cool. I think there's nothing wrong with the way that it looks, but more so the specs and stuff. And I did do a video, but I think I'm going to do it differently than how I initially did it. Now, why are we talking about Panasonic if this is mostly, we usually just cover Sony, talk a little bit about Canon here or there? It's because I think a lot of people honestly will pick this up. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. This camera is feeling real M50-ish. And this is what my video is going to go into. It's feeling real M50-ish, Canon M50-ish. Here's why. Because if you remember, around about that time, it was a little bit of the same thing, and I think this is going to play out very similar to how it did there, very similar to how the ZV-E10 was, very similar to how the ZV-E1 was when it came out. It was a little bit more like people love the features and stuff like that. They just weren't sure about the specs and all of that. But let's dive into the specs real quick, just so we are all on the same page. Now, for as this one, let's just do these quick little blurbs that they have here. And it is actually a pretty freaking gosh darn dynamite camera. You look at its 24.2 megapixel sensor. It is full frame. It does up to 6K 30 frames per second, 420 10-bit recording. It does have the open gate. It's saying the ISO range is 100 to 51,200, which is more than I think anyone usually uses on most occasions. But I am curious if that can be expanded like usually we see in our Sony cameras. And it has 420 10-bit or whatever. I'm guessing that's fast, slow motion video. It's like their S&Q. A lot of, you know, I'm not going to say they are trying to encroach on what Sony's been doing, but a lot of the creator-esque things, I'm seeing it on this camera. They got the Cinema 4K up to 4K 60, 422 10-bit. Of course, you know, you have amazing Panasonic IBIS and whatnot, real-time LUT thing, which is a big deal compared to the way they have it. And if we smidge on in here, they actually, can we zoom in on this picture? Maybe not. But if you have it, let me scroll down. Let me get this out the way. I guess we can't punch in right now for it. Let's switch to the back of the camera if they have a close-up of it now. So basically it's a LUT button, as you, if you watched any of the videos, just right there, like next to the auto off on whatever switch. But basically they're pushing this to be like that Fuji replacement, and a lot of people have been picking up this Fuji camera, which I find is interesting. But more interesting is I think people are going to be picking this up for video. Now, here's the kicker. I had to pull some notes for this because it's a dope camera. It's full frame, has their amazing IBIS and all that or whatever. Recording limits out the wazoo. Recording limitations. And we haven't seen this in a while. So internal recording modes, if you need to see hashtag all the things, here's most of it. Nothing special, particularly far as external recording modes, but it just lets me know, you know, live streaming or what have you would be fine, more or less. But if we scroll all the way down, where is it? So right here, recording limit up to 15 minutes in 4K, which I find is absurd. Not only is it absurd, it is like really bizarre. And I think that they're doing this solely because they don't want to have to worry about overheating, as we are and have seen. And speaking of which, forgot to turn my fan on my camera, so let me just because we got to be, if anything, together. And so before I live stream, I do turn on my camera fan. So there you go. So, but yeah, overheating. So up to 15 minutes in 4K. It is 20 minutes in 1080p, and then it is, let me pull it up because I had it in my notes for it, but it's just a little bizarre. And we haven't seen nothing like this in a long time. Let me see. So recording limits. Nope, not that one. All right, here's what we're looking at. Like I said, 15 minutes in 4K. I think it's 10 minutes in the, it's 10 minutes in the 6K video recording spec. And then in 1080p, it's 20 minutes. Which, again, like I said, I think that's a little bizarre when you look at just video in general, because we're used to unlimited recording. This is internal. But here's why I think this camera is going to be a way bigger hot seller than people think right now. And it's a lot of online grumblings, and the keyboard warriors are going to town. They're getting a full workout this week. But here's what I personally think, again, coming from the other side of the perspective, because I think as soon as, and this is what a lot of people I think are overlooking, I've been around the block long enough to know this is not going to play out, I think, the way people are expecting it to. And here's why I think this is a bigger deal and going to be probably a bigger creator camera than what it is currently. Because like I said, right now you got 15 minutes in 4K, in 6K, 10-minute recording limit, and then in 1080p, a 20-minute recording limit. That's not going to ride for what people need for live streaming. I don't know if externally, like let's say you hook it up to, you're doing like a live stream type setup like this, is it going to be a big deal or not? Is there anything with that, or are we going to be fine? I think you should be fine hooking it up for like a live stream. So maybe this kind of a setup using Ecamm Live and whatnot becomes the jam. What's up, Neil? Good to see you. Glad that you are here, my brother. And I think what they'll end up doing is making sure that it's fine for live streaming in this kind of a scenario. Hook it up via HDMI. USB, it can do, this is what the specs are saying. It's like it can get up to that 10 megabits per second. That's high-speed data transferable information or what have you. So USB-C, live streaming or connectivity also should be fine. Here's what I think everybody's overlooking with this camera. Panasonic does firmware updates. At the end of the day, yes, like I said, 15 minutes in 4K, absurd. 6K, 10 minutes, I don't know anybody that's really doing that for that long, or even using 4K to, not 4K, 6K to that depth. 1080p, 20-minute recording limit, don't know about that, you know? Like, but they can turn that off. And that's what I think. They probably released it so they don't have that initial, like the ZVE1 did when it came out, which is like, oh, the camera's overheating absurdly for as soon as I'm just looking through the menus or something. And then honestly, a lot of people are doing a lot of that stuff just trying to get attention. I get it. They want the views, whatever. But here's the thing. Regular use case scenario, you'll be fine. And I think the same is true for this. And granted, vlogging is like $1,500. I mean, I don't know. Would you spend that much for a vlogging camera? I think a lot of people already have, or spent way more. Or when you look at like the base level of a camera package, maybe let's say $1,000 to $1,200 or something like that. you know, they'll be fine. But Panasonic does firmware updates. I think initially they'd rather have people upset or frustrated by the prospect of the recording limits versus overheating. So it was like, limits or overheating, we'll take the recording limits. But I think they're going to turn that off. Via firmware, I think they're going to say, hey, we've listened to our people and we've heard you. And here's what we're going to do. We've decided to put it into the creator's hands and allow for you to go into the menu and say disable recording limits so that it doesn't overheat. But if you want the camera to manage it, these are the limits. If you want to manage it, then here's what you can do. You can turn it off. And then from there, you would need to use the camera fan, because at the end of the day, the biggest winner in all of this stuff is going to be Ulanzi with the camera fans. So I think it'll be a great camera. As soon as they do firmware, turn that off, then everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be now no hot shoe. It's kind of lame, you know, only because it's back there over on the other table. But I got the DJI MI hot shoe adapter thingy. Bees Knees Hall of Fame. I'm a full convert at this point. Like, I'm looking at all of my shotgun microphones and the cable situation, which has never been an issue and still isn't an issue. But I'm like, that having no cables is super efficient. The lower noise floor is the biggest winner in switching to that. And that's something that you kind of won't be able to take advantage of, which Panasonic also has. So I think industry-wise, it's going to put a little pressure, if they do the firmware update to turn off the recording limits on like the ZV line of cameras, because I hope we can be looking at a ZV-E10 Mark II coming to a theater near you in August, hopefully, according to Sony Alpha rumors, that is. So we hope. Again, that's what I hope. Anyway. So a little bit of Panasonic news there. And then I did a poll. Let me pull that up on my community tab. Just asking a question based on some comments and stuff that I've seen. Let's see here. I'm just trying to go to my channel. And I asked about, like, if you are struggling with like finding the time to create. And this is something I think plagues people no matter like at what stages that they're at in their content creation space. And so if we smidge on over here, I asked the question, I'm curious, do you find yourself struggling on the regular to quote unquote find time to create content? Overwhelmingly, 67% of the votes, it had 67 votes, excuse me. Overwhelmingly, 93% said yes. A small 7% said no. And then 2 people left comments saying yeah, I totally think I could cut down on watching YouTube videos about gear and storytelling, though. I've started to try to sit down and edit for at least 10 minutes a day, which has been nice when I can do it. And then another comment saying yes, but that's because I have 2 little kids who are always screaming and have to batch content in 2 hours. I get that. And I understand the frustration of wanting to make content, but feeling like I really don't have the time. Let me adjust my heating pad real quick and my seating pad. Ugh. If Doc was here, he would say, that's because you're short. You need to sit on the pot because you're short. And I would say, forget you, brother. Nobody cares. So, fun fact, in my best-selling book, the One Right video that I've talked about, sitting back there, sitting on the desk, but I talked about how you can find time to create and how I've been able to do this. And I've talked about this quite a bit, but I do want to address these couple comments before I get too far off into this real quick. So Neil was saying 100% on the firmware regarding the S9. Firmware updates. I remember all the iterations of the GH5. Over time, it became a more powerful camera. Agreed. And I even had pulled up the Panasonic GX8, which is one of my favorite cameras that I had. It just had I had 2 of them, and both of them had an issue where it's like if you were panning just left to right or right to left, whatever, it would be like some kind of a glitch. So it had a malfunction in the software for whatever reason. But that camera never really took off. I don't think like it should have. And probably just because it was like the contrast versus contrast detection autofocus versus the phase detection autofocus. But the GH5 stepped over all of that and overcame a lot of that contrast detection talk and issues. And even then they were trying and working on the firmware, but the Panasonic still to this day, we just now are getting cameras overall, like in the, I'll say like the camera network, if you will, across brands, where 10-bit is normalized now, where we're seeing like those first iterations of cameras come out and they have 10-bit. Because the GH5 still crushes. I think it goes for about $1,200 right now online, and it still crushes. And yes, Neil, I remember when the GH5 came out, I was hyped because it was funny. This is why I think they're going to do what they're doing. When that initial video came out, the same guy, Sean, that does all of their stuff, he was like talking to the guy at B&H, and at the time, A6300, A6500 was a thing. And the overheating was going bananas, and people like, I can't use this camera in 4K. I can't do a wedding like this, if such and such, whatever. And that's where we saw the introduction of the high heat mode. Just to disable that, issue kind of went away to a point. But the guy Sean dropped on the GH5 release videos, and he was like, and it was like the last thing he said. And he was like, and it could do all of this, you know, 4K, 10-bit, blah, 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 and no overheating. And it doesn't have a fan in it. And then they cut away to the next clip or whatever. And it was so funny. And that camera updates out the wazoo. So I think everybody's missing the point. Like, this finna be like a big summer buyer. I'm not even joking. I hope the ZV-E10 Mark II brings the pain a little bit, because it'll be at a smaller price point, probably sub $1,000. I don't think it'll compare in the sense of like, I don't know if it'll be able to do log stuff, but in my ZV-E1, which I wish I had to put the ZV-E10 up for the streaming today so I could play more with that, but you can have your LUTs on your camera if you want to. While you're streaming, while you're recording, you can either see it, you can have it embedded into the thing, and you can have a ton of them. So you can't do that on the ZV-E10 like that. It's obviously not a feature, but they're really going for that Fuji market. So I think people are missing the boat of, like, they would rather say and have the issue with the recording limit, give it a couple weeks, hear more people post their videos about like, we need more recording limit. Like, what are y'all doing? Let us just use the camera fan. Then they can say, we listen to our users, and we are we are proud to present unlimited recording for you in the new S9 with the free firmware update. And we added some other stuff that you could probably do with the app, because I don't think we've heard the last of that. The app now is just for LUTs right now. I think that's the first iteration of how they plan to use it. I think it's so much more to come with that. You think about all the stuff that they like, the fact that it's a super fast, immediate transfer almost between your phone and your camera. That's been the one thing missing in the industry, period. I didn't forget all about the stuff I talked about on the community tab. We'll get back to that, I promise. But I got back into the camera stuff. But here's the thing. The fact that your phone and your camera are almost interconnected, it is not beyond me to think. Because again, the USB-C, which nobody mentioned, but I'm a nerd, so I read all the specs. The USB-C in the camera is fast data transferable. They've already made it almost seamless between that Lumix Lab app and the camera. It is not too far-fetched for them to say, and when they drop the unlimited recording, and maybe at that same time or shortly thereafter, they'd be like, oh, by the way, you can stream to your phone, whether that be tethered via USB-C, because it has 5G and stuff in the camera. It has the fast data transferable information. It has, like, it already is connected. So what if you're streaming from the S9 onto your Instagram? What if you're doing that? What if your vertical streams on TikTok, if I don't even know what's gonna happen with that or whatever, you can do that now. What if you can just stream via USB-C with the camera, with your LUTs on there or whatever, which we can already do that in the ZV-E1. But what if you don't need something like a cam link or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because they made the connection smart between the two. Same thing with the DJI Mic 2s when they came on. I'm like, people ain't paying attention to the possibilities here. Me and Doc had a whole talk about it. As soon as I was done with that stream, we was talking on the phone, because I'm like, it's Bluetooth in there. And so like DJI MI shoe adapter thing, I'm a full convert. I'm looking at all my mics now like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to get the Sony MI mic shoe hot shoe microphones, because I'm like, y'all gotta catch the vision for what's happening here. I'm so hyped to see what this opens up the possibilities for, because it's gonna put pressure on everybody else to keep pace. And so ultimately the creators will win, but I think this is gonna be a way bigger deal than everybody playing with, because Panasonic does firmware updates on the regular, and the S5 2X or whatever, with their latest firmware update, they waxing it. It's crazy. What's up, Marcus? For the people, creative amplifiers for the people. Okay, so if you weren't at eCamp Creator Camp last year, that is what our group was called, Creative Amplifiers. So for the people was our chant. Marine X was good to, what's going on? Good to see you. Saying, I think I agree. My Fujifilm X100V had a 10-minute recording limit in 4K and 15 minutes in 1080p. I had no issues with that. It wasn't my main camera, and that's the other aspect of it. If they don't do the firmware update, let's say they don't, it still will be fine for people that are vlogging, because here's what everybody fails to mention. And I hate that like so many creator friends that are like went to Japan and doing this stuff, and just like other creators that we all collectively watch, like the comments. First of all, I'm glad Terry did his live stream, putting people in check, because it needs to happen. I think too many people got too comfortable with cancel culture of just like expecting an apology after every time you get some massive wave of people disagreeing. You are supposed to disagree and agree, and that's part of like healthy communication and conversation. And sometimes people's perspective shifts. Their perspective shifts, and it's like, you know what, I didn't think about that. It's like, oh, it's like, okay. Too many people get used to getting their way as soon as they complain about something. You know what? I'm gonna tell you right now. Proof positive, some people didn't get whoopings growing up. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But to your point, Marine X, people need to understand that this is not a versus of the Panasonic or the Lumix, as they've rebranded the camera line for specifically to be called as such. The S5 2X. Don't nobody want to carry that all day. Don't nobody want to carry that all day. I don't care how much you lift in weights. Nobody want to carry that all day. But would you want to still carry with you something like that? So when people are traveling, you think about eCamp Creator Camp that's coming up. Would you want to take the S5 2X with you, or the, what's the name of one, if you're not doing any kind of video podcast or whatever? Now, because the creative flexibility is there, it's like maybe you do like for your big projects, you take it. But it's no different than the big lenses. The big lenses sit back in the hotel room locked up in a box. The big cameras sit back in the hotel room. It only took one time, and it only takes one time for you to carry all of your camera gear with you to an event. Realize how much of it you're not actually going to use, and then you understand why you see us rolling around with one camera, one lens, two microphones, like a vlogging type microphone, like this, super simple, something I could pop on, pop off, and then like something like the DJI mics with the lapel in the kit box or whatever, and that's it. We ain't carrying a whole bunch of stuff. Maybe one other lens, and that's about it. Because ain't nobody got time for that. So all Panasonic needs to do, honestly, I don't even know if they need to. Because here's another point. I done got on a soapbox somewhere. Here's the other point. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm really excited for what this camera can bring to the market and put pressure on in the market. That's the biggest thing. The Sigma, I didn't cover it like I wanted to, but this is a lens that I'm gonna be talking about a whole lot more on the channel. The Sigma 10-18 f2.8 lens. By oh gosh, what does that say? L Mount Alliance. L Mount Alliance. So this is already going to be the go-to vlogging lens for that camera. It's perfectly paired. Panasonic needs to start making their own lenses, but this is perfectly paired, primed and ready to go right here, 10 to 18. Yes, it's an APS-C lens or whatever. I don't know how that works with them, with it being like the L mount thing, or like on Sony, it's an APS-C lens in general. So, but they also now introduced their own kind of like clear image zoom type deal. But this is gonna be the go-to lens already, period. And if not this, my beloved lens that I still haven't tried yet for some reason, I think I'm just gonna end up getting it, the 16 to 28 by Sigma. That is a full frame lens. Same way in that same lineup. I think my lens lineup moving forward is probably gonna be predominantly Sigma or Tamron or something like that. This is gonna be the go-to. Guess what? L mount alliance. Right there. So between the two, if you want one that's full frame or if you want one that's already like a wider one, you can use the clear image zoom, whatever they're calling it, a dynamic zoom or something like that. These are gonna be the go-to lenses for that. Easily. Small, compact, lightweight. Honestly, I think well priced. So I don't know, like I feel like everybody, I'm looking at the people doing videos, I'm like, are y'all serious? Not the people doing videos, people in the comments underneath those videos, I'm like, are y'all serious? Like y'all don't see this? Like, all right. See, I still have my GH5, an amazing camera. Panasonic does, the only thing that camera needed is that camera could still be great. If they I promise you, if they redid that camera, it's probably like the GH6 Mark II or whatever. If they did this camera, or S1H2 at this point, and the phase detection or whatever, same stuff, the camera still would crush. So just bring some ice to the shoot. You know, it's like, if you get a camera fan, you're done talking about the overheating conversation. That's the only issue with the smaller cameras that don't have the fan built in or something, like, is the lack of airflow. So do I want a smaller camera and I add on the camera fan if I need it? Yes, because that means I don't always need it. I just need it in certain instances. But I'd rather, because that's even still a smaller, lighter, compact weight thing than some big old chunker. Ain't nobody trying to carry around all that stuff all day. It's just annoying, in my opinion. Saying hello, what's going on? Harsh Shalanko reacts. Slunky? I think I said that right. Saying hello, good to see you. Said I'm confused between the two lenses for my ZV-E10. One is an 85mm and the other is a 17 to 70 f2.8. Tamron, please help. Well, without really knowing the context, I'm going to push you towards the 70 to 70 f2.8 for Tamron, because autofocus, number one, the 85 is great. Autofocus is slow, and I'm saying slow as in not these tests that you see where somebody comes into the frame and see how fast it acquires and then they leave or whatever, like stuff like that. What I'm saying is, and this is coming from my actual experience using that lens at an actual real and live event, it is slow. When an action is happening or you see something about to happen and you can kind of like prepare for it essentially, then you have seconds to figure out what you want to do and how you want to set it up. Are you going to go vertical, whatever, whether that's photos or video. It's slow, and once it misses focus and then it like reacquires or whatever, because the motors are slower in the 85, it doesn't even like matter anymore because the moment's gone. So then at that point, it's like now you're starting to play around with either a deeper depth of field, so you're not getting whatever extreme blurry background like you think you might, or and I'm talking about the Sony one, not a third party, somebody, someplace, the Sony one. And if you look at photos, if you're just doing like set shots or something, you know, fine. But actual real motion stuff, then no. I mean, you can do it. You just need to learn to work with its quirks. And like I said, you figure out whatever deeper depth of field that you would need. And so maybe let's say you're at an f4 or something like that, instead of being, you know, at a smaller aperture trying to really blur the background. But it still will still look nice. It'll still look great. It is a beautiful lens. The glass elements are awesome, but Tamron's going to be the way to go. Because of that, like I said, fast focusing motors, the lens thread on the front is a little bit more achievable. Like, I'll pull that up real quick. Let's see, Tamron 17 to 70. Plus, Tamron just does some great stuff, and their lenses do something that other lenses cannot. Which is, here we go. which is minimum focusing distance at the tip of the lens is amazing. It's darn near macro like. And so this is going to be a better buy, in my opinion. Like I said, the faster focusing motors and the fact that you are going to have a more normal filter thread or whatever. So you're not going to have to use a ton of step up or step down rings, depending on what you're doing, to go from one setup to the other. This would be my vote for whatever it is that you're trying to do, if that's the comparison that you're trying to look at between them. So Summit Church Online, good to see you. Glad that you are here. Saying hand pink waving. Why, hello. What's going on, Al Jennings? Good to see you. Glad that you are here. Mr. Camera Junkie in the building. Good to see you. And then you're saying this will be my first lens after the kit lens. Well, are you just looking for a better version of the kit lens, or are you looking for real that range specifically, or like what's the use case? Because 17 to 70, yeah, that's a large range, but it's also like a for what? What's the use? What's the intended use case? Just to make sure you're getting as close to whatever it is you're trying to do. Because like you also have like the Sigma 18 to 50, much smaller lens, but if you just want a better version of a kit lens or something, then that's a smaller package. If you're trying to get the range, then you get like the Tamron 70 to 70 is great. Because you also have clear zoom that can come to your benefit in that scenario as well. But I would question, what's the use case for the lens in general? Al asking, I'm getting an error message on my ZV-E10 that says camera error, turn power often on. Or message on my ZV-E10 that says camera error, turn the power often on. I've never seen that before, to be honest with you. I have no idea what's going on. If it's in certain, let's see, if it's in certain, let's go through the rundown. If it's new, less than 30 days, take it back, exchange it for something else. And like get a different ZV-E10. Literally, I had just went and got this one or I had another one from Best Buy and noticed a, what do you call it? Just a malfunction in the software. If I don't have the My Menu, this is how you would find some of this kind of stuff. If I don't have the option set in the My Menu to where, and this doesn't matter if it's a new camera or used, you still want to do these tests and stuff just to see. If you have it to select it or deselect it to say start from the My Menu, which means every time you hit the menu button on the camera, it will just go to your My Menu. And when you turn that off, it should go to wherever you left off in the menu. This camera would be someplace else every time. So if I'm in the video settings menu and I don't, like I said, I have it just to wherever I'm at in the menu, take me back there, and it will always be someplace else. So that's the first red flag. The other red flag was when I moved to the right, the image moved to the left. And I'm like, did I do something wrong? And it will only be when the camera is flipped in. I almost missed it because most of the time the camera is either flipped out this way or flipped out this way. So do some tests, figure out what the micro nuances are, because mine was, like I said, if it was this way. So I took it back, exchanged it for this one, run my tests, whatever, everything's fine. So see what settings, what environment, whatever is the reason why that may be happening. If it's just in video or if it's just in photo. Because they will ask you more details if you're trying to send it back for, like, let's say if it's still under warranty someplace, but if it's new, just send it back, exchange it for one that works, and tell them it's defective. I don't know why it's saying that, or if it's on a mode or something to where it's saying like you can't use it because it's in this mode. That's not what it sounds like. But I would also do some Googling to see if anybody else has said something like that. But more or less, unfortunately, to me, it sounds like it could be some defection in the software. If you can, check your firmware, which is all the way at the very end of the settings menu. And it's like whatever version or something like that in the toolbox or suitcases, I like to call it. Check there and see if the firmware is up to, I think the last one was a 2.0 firmware version. If you're not at that, try to update it to a firmware version 2.0 and see if that works. And if nothing else, then you just would either trade it in, buy a new one or something like that, or like I said, if it's new, return it. If you don't have any of those things, see what the price is for getting it Sony to repair it, which is usually minor, but in costs. Saying thank you for explaining. Love from India. You're very welcome. Saying there's also the Tamron 35 150 if you're just purely looking for range. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like what's the intent for the lens beyond the use case, because it is a lot of good ones. Tamron does a great job. Made it to the live. Good to see you, Brother Hunt. Glad that you are here. Saying so glad you're back, as am I, my good sir, as am I. All right, so feel free to continue to drop your questions, comments, as well as your questions, because we're still doing Q&A today. So feel free to continue to drop those in the chat as you come in. So if you're just joining us live or on a replay, thanks for being here. So like I said, we had the question that was on the community tab from the poll that I'll go back to, since I did get talking more about the camera stuff. So it's like, I asked the question, I'm curious, do you find yourself struggling on the regular to quote unquote find time to create content? And I already read the comments there, so I get that. So I wanted to share with you all real quick how I deal with this, because like I was sharing before with you all, things have gotten so much better. Like I shared last week on the live stream, things have gotten so much better health-wise for me. However, this is still a thing just because our schedules fluctuate or what have you. Last thing you want to do is spend all this money on all of this gear that you want to use, take out and hashtag do all the things, and you can't do all of the things. So I'm just going to share with you real quick. Like I said, this came out of my book, The One Right Video, My Content Quadrant. This is how I get around all of that. This is how I don't have to worry about dealing with any of that. You have your quick hitters, your light planners, your medium planners, and your hard hitters. That basically makes life easier so that you can make content whenever, however, and it can fit within the range of all this stuff. So when you think about the quick hitters, like those are your stories. Those are something that you can do as 60 to 90 second videos. And so again, talking about the Panasonic or the Lumix S9, pop your camera in vertical video orientation and do whatever you can think about, make a piece of content on it. Literally at this point, because it's easy to produce. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. So consider that, test it out, because that's something that you can do at any point. The other one of those is a light planner. Those are your quick videos, you know, something you can crank out really quick, 1-2 bullet points, and it just goes on from there, from the media planners to the hard hitters, or what have you. So take a screenshot of this if you watch this live or on the replay, if that was something that was relevant to you. If you all have questions about that, we can go into that more, but I know we kind of want to talk more about the camera stuff, so I will stay there and we'll go into that. But if you have questions about that, just want to share that with y'all because it's helpful and it'll get you by when you feel like you don't have time to create. Just look at your calendar, see what time you actually have available, and then fit the content that makes the most sense in there. So hopefully that serves you well. David asking, have you heard about the Samyang 35 to 150? I've heard Samyang releasing quite a bit of lenses. Let's go ahead and pull that up. Let's see, Samyang 35 to 150, you said? 35, 150. I don't know if they're on B&H. I usually see them on Amazon a lot. But I'm going to tell you what, they are stepping up their game quite a bit. And Samyang, Rokinon is more or less the same company. But they're doing a lot of good things with their lenses, and they are really putting in the work. And so I like the look of this. This is more in alignment of that new, like, hey, we're not just cheap lenses only. Like, it can be budget friendly lenses, but it's like, hey, don't think of us as like uber cheap. So we got the button on there. Oh man, I love the buttons on the lenses. I just set that to record, so I love that. And the custom modes 1, 2, and 3. Okay, this is looking dope. This one did not, oh, it has 2 buttons on there. Excuse me, I have not seen, you know what, David, I'm glad you brought this up because I had not. So this will be interesting. I do want to see, it should have a USB-C port on the back. It does not. Okay, that's interesting. Usually they do. because they do firmware updates, which is what I like about some of these third-party lens manufacturers, is they continue to make improvements to the gear. So I'm curious about the custom 1, 2, and 3. David, if you know more about that, please feel free to share. But I'm curious about that custom 1, 2, 3, how that works, or what that is would essentially be for. Or would it be like, can I preset it to, like, let's say 73 millimeters? And that's like, let's say I set that to custom mode 2 and I flip between the two, and it's kind of like auto zooming in and out to that specific range, because that'd be dope if it does. But no, this is a dope lens. I like the look of this. Like I said, the buttons for me, if I have one like the Sony 11mm f1.8 or the Sony 15mm f1.4, or some of the smallest ones that I've seen that have the button on it, instantly, especially when you're holding the camera out, as soon as you have it like this one is by Rokinon, so it's that same company. As soon as you hold it, just like, you can easily hit the record, start and stop, but it makes creating that much easier, and I love it. And I've debated about getting it, but the focal range is off. 11 millimeters as a prime only is too wide for, like, I just like 12 is it. And I talked about that in the last video I did, like outside or whatever. 12 is the focal range. Once you add in dynamic active stave, or you add on active stave or whatever, you only need to go that little bit more. 10 and 11 millimeters on APS-C on a full frame camera, which is not, but if I'm using them as ZVE1, once I add those on, I still would need to punch in more, so you're not getting as much zoom and stuff like that. I don't want to use too much of that digital zoom anyway, so, but that's cool. I like that lens. It looks dope. Saying, will you be at Creator Camp this year? Sadly, I will not. I did get the invite to go and be what was I called last year? Camp counselor. That's thinking camp counselor. So I did get the invite graciously, but I had to decline. There's another business event around about that time, and I can't go to both because they're literally like that same exact week or whatever, and it's just not enough time. So I already had I knew the eCamp Creator Camp was going to be around that time frame, but business dictates. Got to do what makes sense business-wise instead of just for fun only, unfortunately. So I won't be at Camera Camp this year. I may try to swing by if for whatever reason I don't go to that other event, but more or less I'm probably going to be someplace else, unfortunately. Saying most minor in costs unless you spend unless you send a Sony 28 to 135 power zoom, but I'd rather pay and get it fixed because clients love the look of that lens when I shoot commercials. I'm guessing you mean like the 85. So here's my thing with the power zoom lenses. They're okay, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, they're all right. So this context here saying, I want a lens from which I can click portraits, and I also want it for videos, reels. I was planning on an 85 because I have a kit lens for video, but I'm confused. So Tamron will be great. So here's the thing, 85 is really far away. And that's the thing you have to think about. Put your kit lens on and sit in the front of the camera, because even if you go to 50 millimeters and you add on some more for clear image zoom, you're gonna be down the hallway trying to record before you can get in just even this kind of a framing. So 85 is quite a bit of a stretch, because this 35 millimeter lens, you would need 4 feet for that just to get a similar type framing. So if you're trying to do shorts, reels, regular YouTube videos, you're gonna be down the hall trying to, and that's gonna be annoying. So 85 is out if you're talking about that. 17 to 70, again, it's like, what are we talking about range wise here? Because if you just literally, like I said, if you just literally are trying to replace the kit lens, I'm gonna push you a different route. This would be my recommendation. The Sigma 18 to 50 f2.8, because this gets you, is like, you literally just looking for copy paste, but a better quality lens that is better than the kit lens, but that same kind of range. This is as close as you're gonna get. So that's a 16 to 50 f3.5 to 5.6 or whatever. This is an 18 to 50 constant f2.8. If you don't need all of that excess on the back end, like that's fine. But like you said, you just want to click, you want to do some portraits, you still can. So like you can still take your photos at 35, 45, 40, 45, 50 or whatever. And if you need to punch in a little bit more, you can use clear image zoom, which is fine. But if you literally are just looking for something close to copy and paste bit of a kit lens, then that's what I would push you more towards to like the 18 to 50. Because even if we do like, let's say, well, if you're doing RAW, you can't use clear image zoom, so you'd have to be doing JPEG. But if you are doing RAW, then no. But let's say video. If you are doing clear image zoom, let's say you're in 4K, so at most you can do a 1.5 times crop. Let's say you zoom to 50 millimeters. You can still get, what is it, like close to like 75 or something like that millimeter equivalent at that point. So that'll get you there if you need it. But if you actually need the range, then obviously you just buy the range. But if you literally just looking for copy and paste of what your kit lens can do, this is closer to that. And you can stay at a constant f2.8 no matter where you are in that range. But if you are looking for something that's more, like sometimes it makes sense to get the prime version of whatever it is that you want specifically for portraits, because primes, in my opinion, do look better than zoom lenses for a lot of vlogging stuff, and 16 isn't cutting it for you. Then you're going to be looking at the, well, you know what? It would honestly be, let's see what these cost now. Because if you vlogging on the ZV-E10, they have, I don't know if it's just discontinued on here or what. Because the Sony 10 to 18 f4, yeah, they are just pushing the 10 to 20 because this don't have an OSS in it. The older, let's see if I can go to, oops, didn't mean to do this, do Adorama. Hold on, Adorama. They hopefully will still have it. Let's do Sony, because I just want to see what they are priced at right now. So I know the 10 to 20 is the new power zoom lens. Yeah, so I guess everybody's pulling it off their lineup. Okay, here we go. So $298, that's not bad at all. Let's say heavy use. So I guess you gotta take that with a grain of salt also. But if you're trying to vlog and you don't need ZV-E10 or something like that, or you just need a wider range, something like the 10 to 18 would be better for that. But like I said, as close as you just trying to copy, paste, duplicate what the kit lens can do, that Sigma is going to be the next closest thing, that 18 to 50. But if you do need the range, 17 to 70 still would be great. Only reason I say 18 to 50 because it's small, it's compact, it's not as cumbersome to carry around, and it's not as big of a lens that's going to feel like a boat on the front of a ZV-E10. So, but if you vlogging or something like that, I honestly still would go with the older 10 to 18 f4. Because it has the optical steady shot. That's what that OSS stands for on the lens. That optical steady shot is better, in my opinion, than not having that on the newer 10 to 20 f4 power zoom one. So, yeah. Saying shame, have to catch up some other time. Yeah, we'll see if I can try to swing out. I don't see both happening, personally. Okay, so you're talking about the 28 to 135 power zoom. It's hold on, minor in costs, or mostly minor in costs. And you say you're referring to like the repair cost. Oh, I don't know. I missed the boat on that one, my brother. I'm not catching you. Try to push. I'm like, but yeah, I'm missing what you were saying there. So I don't know. You can clarify. Let me know. But yeah, Neil, I won't be there. I'm debating still trying to go, and just like, I don't know if I'm just going to do the first 2 days and then call it good or what. But I didn't want to do the camp counselor bit with the eCam creator camp, because it's like, I know I need to go to this other business event it's like what I actually need to do. It's like camera camp will be fun. And then too, the other problem with that, I know I'm not going to want to leave, and I know I'm going to want to stay over. So it's like I can't be tempted. It's like I can't be tempted to do both. It's got to be one or the other with it. Saying bye, good night, folks. That's right, it's nighttime over there. All right, glad that you could be helped with your lens debacle. Hopefully you're able to pick out which one is right for you. Ravens Talk with Yolanda saying, hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Good to see you. Glad that you are here. Yeah, that's interesting. So the thing is, somebody posted a comment talking about how they're frustrated with all of the excess of lenses. This is on the ZV-E10 Mark II video that I posted some time ago. And Sony Alpha Rumors is saying that this is going to be coming out around August. So I don't know if that's mid or late August, but let's say it comes out around somewhere between the 12 and the 15th mark range or something like that. So if it's August, that camera's going to drop, because I also had some other comments asking around this. Should they wait or should they go ahead and get it? Get the ZV-E, I'll just say the ZV-E10 Mark I, or wait for the Mark II? Personally, I say wait for the Mark II because it's close enough. However, like I said, the one comment was saying like Sony needs to do more lenses. We got lenses out the wazoo. Yeah, I would love to see some more specific stuff, but we were just talking about them today. Samyang, Rokinon. Let's say you don't want to do those. You want to stick with what you know. Fine. Sigma, Tamron. Sony's even releasing some. But you can find Sony E-mount lenses everywhere. Lenses is not the problem. It's really finding the curated camera body that you want. Now here's what, if I do an updated list with everything that everybody says, I hope we get the A6700 sensor in the ZV-E10 Mark II. I hope that that also includes IBIS in the ZV-E10 Mark II. Am I hopeful, or do I just, really think it's going to be there? I'm really hoping that it's there, but I don't think it probably will be. Unfortunately, I just see them making the ZV-E10, unfortunately, staying in that budget range. So it may be a better sensor, and it may have dynamic active stave in there, but I don't think it's also going to have IBIS. So that's what I think with that one. As far as the sensor, I would love to see the FZ100 battery, but I don't think they're going to redo the shell like that. It'll probably still be the SD card at the bottom of the camera. I don't think that's going away. I would want to hear better preamps in the headphone port, because on the ZV-E10 versus the ZV-E1, the headphone port is much quieter, way quieter. So I would want to see that updated a little bit. Do I expect it? Nah. But you could probably get away with that with the new MI shoe microphones. And I mean, if they didn't put a HDMI mini on the ZV-E1, it's probably still going to be HDMI micro, unfortunately, on this one. I don't care about that as much as everybody else tends to. I don't know, so maybe some people just aggressively break their stuff. Like, it's like, or it can't handle whatever they need for use case or whatever. A better screen, obviously. Is it going to be though? No. And here's why I just don't have a lot of hope, personally. I don't have a lot of hope in what the ZV-E10 Mark II is going to actually drop, because the ball got dropped with the ZV-1 Mark II. I was thinking about that this morning, and I was like, I literally never covered that camera, and I thought I would have, or at least picked it up. ZV-1 Mark II, I'm like, no. And that was contrast detection autofocus. I don't know who made that brilliant decision, but that sucks. Kim Bucha in the building. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. Saying, Lord, I'm late, but hey, Diane, I'm surprised by this title. We definitely been talking about some Panasonic stuff today. You have to go back. You have to go back to the beginning of the show when we was talking about that kombucha, excuse me. But I mean, you gotta catch it. You gotta catch the beginning, at least the first couple minutes, because I think it's gonna be a bigger deal than what it is. I think that camera's gonna be interesting, and it's gonna bring some more things to the market. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But as far as ZV-E10 Mark II, I don't know, man. I just hope that it at least is a better sensor. And even if that, it may not have IBIS, it'll likely have dynamic active stabilization in there. And if it only has those two things, and if it only does those two things, it'll be a better upgrade. Obviously, the new menu, it'll be a touch screen. I don't think the flip screen is going to be improved as far as the quality or something like that. Maybe it's brighter, but it's not going to be necessarily a higher quality. But yeah, I don't think it gets too much more past that. There's going to be LUTs, you know, or stuff like that. Who knows? Firmware is always going to be the question of the day, but I just don't think so. Said, oh, we gonna catch it. But no, just to catch you up, so you ain't gotta scroll all the way back. The reason why I brought up the Panasonic or the Lumix S9, because it does a lot of stuff right, and it's only a smidgen that it's doing wrong with the recording limits, which if I pull my notes back up, it's for that Lumix S9 in 4K, it's a 15-minute recording limit. In 6K, it's a 10-minute recording limit. And then in 1080p, it's a 20-minute recording limit. Now, I don't know if their 4K is like downsampled into the 1080p, but if it is, then that's a one way. They already are getting it looking good for as like live streaming, so you're not actually recording in the camera. It was something I did in the video I recorded, which is, I don't know if it's like how Sony is, where you can record and live stream at the same time, but I can do that on any of the Sony cameras, even on the ZV-10. You can record and live stream at the same time. A6400 is the same way. So if that's the case, you know, I don't know, but it seems like you're gonna have to be back to Hack City and finding some hacks and workarounds. But I think the app and the integration with the phone and how fast that connection is gonna make life way easier. And I honestly feel like some jealousy is gonna be created, because as soon as they say like, oh, you can live stream from your camera and it will send it over to like Instagram or whatever to your phone, and you can select it, and you don't need a specific phone. Unlike with Sony, you need the Xperia or something like that. You don't need a specific something in order for it to work. You don't need a cam link. You can do it via USB-C. I just think it's a different game software wise, because all they have to do is make a small firmware change to say, we're putting it in the creators' hands. We've listened to our creators, and you can do all this amazing stuff, and we'll leave it in your hands, where you can either let the camera manage the heat and you have to deal with those recording limits, or put it in the creator's hands and you can decide if that works for you or not. And then just maybe use like the Ulanzi camera fan and be done with it. And then, like I said, the Lumix Lab app, they didn't call it the LUT app. It's just the Lumix Lab app. I think this app is just this. I think the LUT is just the first thing. I think it's so much more that app can do. So I'm gonna be curious to see hashtag all the stuff. What's up, James Hicks? Good to see you, brother. I do see sometimes you doing a stream with Mo Cephas, the Black Poet. Tell my brother if you see him, I said hello. But yeah, man, you see, James, you came a little too late, because I'm about to wrap it up now. It's time to go, because I got to get ready to hop over on Social Media Examiner's YouTube channel in the next hour or so, like right at 2 p.m. my time. So somewhere about that time, I'll be going live over on Social Media Examiner's YouTube channel, talking about the latest and the most recent YouTube updates. But we not staying here all day. Saying, did I hear you say that Sigma is coming out with the new 24-70 Arts lens too? Or maybe I heard it from. I did not say that. But they already did come out with their 24-70. Like, that was the latest update. So they already did that. It's already out. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me see. 24-70. We'll check this real quick. Yeah. So that lens already came out. If that's what you were waiting for. Here, it's right here. So that lens it already came out. So that was something, I think it was last week that this lens came out. Dope lens, same kind of a setup. Like I said, Sigma is more appealing to me, I think, than anybody else right now with some of the stuff that they're doing lens wise. But yeah, this lens is already dropped. So if that was something that was on your radar and you want to grab, go for it. You know, you can have it where it's clicked or declicked for the aperture. I think the zoom is not internal on this one. Could be wrong on that, but yeah, no. Okay, so yeah, it's not, so it does extend in the barrel. But yeah, it looks dope. And this is what I was saying, you can have the clicked or declicked aperture. So you can definitely check that out. But that's as far as I'm going for. Oh, Kimbuchi, see, man, you taking me back. You taking me back. Yes, the recording limit is atrocious on that camera. And I think it's just for the overheating. That's it. Solely just for the overheating. And that's it. So it's either like recording limit or overheating. We don't want to be known as the camera that overheats, because it's hard to get away from that. You have people doing the absurd test. Like the most absurd test that I saw, like when the ZVE1 came out, and you got me on my soapbox, kombucha, it's your fault. It was a dude sitting in like an attic, dripping. Looked like somebody threw a bucket of water on him, dripping. He's like, so I'm testing the camera. And I'm just like, who records in a scenario like that? Like, you look insane. And probably like I can't imagine what his family was thinking. It's like, Dad, why are you in the attic doing videos? But the dude was just, I mean, absolutely drenched. When I talk about the Whitney Houston lip sweat, like imagine like when she was in her concert days and you see homegirl just drenched from like after an hour of like solid performance. Dude was like, looked like he was doing HVAC work, drenched. Talking about, I'm testing the camera for overheating. Who's gonna be doing a video there? Who is doing a video there? Absurd, absolutely absurd. So said, I'm sorry, I'll go ahead and watch the replay. It's all good. It is all good. Deborah was going on, cuz, saying, hey, cuz, I set the notification, and it let me down. See, you missed it too. That's all right. Like I said, I'm gonna be over at Social Media Examiner's YouTube channel in the next hour. So I think that's 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, whatever that converts to with everybody everywhere. So I'll be over there talking about the latest YouTube updates and the whatnots. And as David said, if your like button is transparent, please click it to make it solid. Thank you. Help the algorithm. You know what I'm saying? And if you enjoy what you heard, what you're saying, you enjoy the conversation, got a little help today, make sure you click that like button. But I'm wrapping it up. I'm not staying. We ain't doing no 5-hour energy. With that, guys, a little passion. I will see y'all in the next video on the channel, and we got some good stuff coming, so stay tuned. With that, guys, peace.